ECT is actually a really good question. 𝗪𝗛𝗓𝗂𝗍𝗂𝗧 is asking about how is ECT ever proved? Well, it's funny, ECT works really, really well. It sounds crazy, but it's not one flew over the cuckoo's nest. It's a lot tamer than that. They anesthetize you, interestingly, before they do the ECT, so you don't feel any of it. It's not that different from one flew over the cuckoo's nest, but it isn't, you're not conscious for it. And it really does work. It's really remarkable. The new drug, which is an old drug called ketamine, seems to sort of have ECT-like effects. ECT is sort of the last line therapy for TRD, treatment-resistant depression, people who are suicidal, people who are really, really sick. And those patients are at their wits' end. SSRIs, SNRIs don't work. Wellbutrin doesn't work. MAOIs don't work. You're really running into a lot of dead ends with patients like this. And ketamine is the new solution, I think, but ECT still, for a long time, has been and will continue to be one option. And it's really something people sort of sleep on or dismiss, but it works really, really well, surprisingly. No one's quite sure how or why, but it does sort of show you that there is some mystery still in the human body. And my friend 𝗕𝗓𝗍𝗍𝗍, who has a podcast that sort of deals with not quite the paranormal, that's probably an insult to him, but it's probably what most scientists would say, but deals with kind of like the exceptional and impossible, things like UFOs and things like, and again, Jesse's a really smart, guy. I put up his intelligence as up there with anybody's, but he at least wants to sort of delve into these things a little bit. And he talks about bioelectronics, which is something a lot of people don't talk about, that our bodies do run on electricity, and the ECT somehow interferes with that. And we don't know how. We're sort of afraid to ask, quite frankly, as scientists, because we'd rather things fit into that neat world of pharmaceuticals, which are really easy to understand. You can make cartoons about them. They're really simple. Whereas like some of these sort of more like not obvious sort of therapeutics are very hard to understand. Like there's one involving a magnet, which I've always thought was from a drug company called Novocure. It's not a drug, it's literally a magnet. And I'm sitting here thinking this has to be a great short. I like to short sell stocks where I bet their stocks go down. This company is talking about this magnet is going to help you live longer from cancer. No way, right? And it does seem to work, which I hate to even have those words come out of my mouth because it's so bizarre. But there are things about medicine that we don't know, and it won't be so bizarre years from now. I'll give you a good example of Revlimid, which at one point was called 𝗨𝗪𝗔. 𝗨𝗪𝗔 is what actually created the FDA. 𝗨𝗪𝗔 caused birth defects, some of the most horrific birth defects known to man, and the FDA decided to get really serious about requiring safety for drugs. But 𝗨𝗪𝗔 also seemed to be a wonder drug for multiple myeloma. And if you look at the structure of 𝗨𝗪𝗔, a lot of people said, well, how does it work? It's just a pill. We should be able to figure this out. And nobody could quite put their finger on it. And they finally figured out that it's working as a so-called PROTAC. And the way it works is not something anybody could have guessed. It is a brand new way for medicine to work. And now all these companies are doing PROTACs, PROTAC, to do other things in the body, like potentially treat breast cancer or prostate cancer, amongst other things. So PROTACs are a brand new way to make medicine. Many startups are head over heels about them. A few friends of mine work at some of the PROTAC companies. A friend of mine who just passed away worked at one. And these companies are going to change the way medicine is made and the way it works. But at the same time, like nobody knew that thalidomide was an accidental PROTAC. Nobody made it trying to become a PROTAC. They made it just sort of randomly. And it turns out it's a PROTAC. So it's a really funny kind of thing how some of this stuff works. And we don't know everything. I think that's the hardest thing to accept. Now, 99% of medicine works the way you expect it to and why you expect it to. And it's not a bad thing to say, well, if I don't know how it works, I'm not going to invest in it, or I'm not going to study it. But occasionally you do have those edge cases where like you don't know how it works, but it is working and you can't deny it. So those are really things that throw us for a loop, and it's really hard to figure out. And ECT is one of those things where God only knows how ECT works, and we might unravel that decades from now, or maybe somebody's already unraveled it. But it's one of these things where it's such a mystery, and it's such a 𝗨𝗪𝗔 was the brand name and thalidomide is the generic name. Did you ever accept a candy bar from someone while living in prison? Yes, I did. So that's a rumor. The rumor is that if you accept somebody's candy bar in prison, your body's going to be owned by them. That's not true. I may be 140 pounds soaking wet, but I will fight for my booty. I will. I mean, technically, yes, I will, but, I'm being pretty uncouth here. Should we use average growth in forecasting? I don't know. It depends on the forecast. Do you think it would be a drug for adults to grow taller in height? Probably not adults. There's a growth plate issue that will sort of... do you agree with patents on drugs? Yeah, I think patents are important. I think it's not easy. What advice would you give to kids in college from the wrong part of the city who are struggling? Thanks for your question. That's a tough one. You kind of have two options. I don't know how to say this in a politically correct way. You can try to assimilate, which is sort of what I did. You can try to sort of... I guess it depends. I have to get to know you better to understand. But, to me, I think that if you're uncomfortable in college because, you didn't grow up this way, right? And you're in this place that's sort of like different, and you can't find people that you sort of can hang with or that you really think understand you. I think you gotta try to find somebody, even if it's a couple people, that you can be friends with. The one thing that people don't understand about friendship is that you don't need a lot of friends to not feel lonely. In fact, one really good friend is really all you need. And I think that, you can find that person. And you don't have to be friends with people you go to college with too. And that's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand, or even in high school. It's very hard in high school, obviously. But so as you get older, your friends don't have to be the people you work with or the people you go to school with or whatever. I think find the people you like online, or find the people you like to be with, and treat your education as a professional obligation, not your life. It's just a professional obligation. It's not science. That's the problem. It's very like... study of, what's it called? Some people call it bioelectronics. It's very wishy-washy. And like I said, my friend Jesse Michaels, who works for Peter Thiel, who's a very, very brilliant guy, really accomplished investor, nobody's fool. He likes to think about and talk about some of the stuff that most people who are serious, quote unquote, will never talk about, like what are UFOs? Do they exist, etc. For me, it's just nonsense, right? I mean, why would I ever talk or think about UFOs? They sound stupid. They sound irrelevant. They sound like hoaxes, things that people, conspiracy theories, things like that. But for Jesse, the question for him is always, what if? And he might be right. And some of the most important questions we ask, we tend to sort of dismiss and not ask what if. And sometimes what if is true, right? It is. It's not if, it is. So yeah, I mean, I respect questions like that. And the body does run on electricity. Our brain waves are synchronized electricity, things like that. And again, with ECT's success, there is a reason to think that works. There's also something called the vagus nerve, where vagus nerve stimulators also work. Tibial nerve stimulators work. So for your tibial nerve runs from the bottom of your ankle, basically, all the way up your leg to your bladder. And if you stimulate your tibial nerve, you will urinate yourself. And this is really useful for people who have different urinary problems. So I think that, there's all kinds of ways. Deep brain stimulation is another ridiculously successful example, where depending on where you put the probe in your brain, you can treat all kinds of different terrible, terrible diseases that had no hope of pharmacological intervention, which again is what we prefer as sort of biopharmaceutical people. The pills fit really nicely and neatly. We understand exactly how they work. Pills, antibodies, so forth, just medicine. But when you think about, okay, I'm going to put some electrodes right here in your brain and we're going to zap you. We're just going to see what happens. And it worked, that's kind of amazing. And, why it works, I think people really don't understand. And that's what most scientists don't want that. They don't want something that they don't understand. Even if it does work, it's sort of a little spooky. So I think that if you're the patient, you're thrilled, right? You don't care as long as you get better. So I think the problem is that there's so much sort of snake oil out there. There's so many people sort of trying to sell you some, I think I saw these healing crystals on on TikTok and stuff like that. Like, that kind of stuff is really scary. And so that's kind of ruins it for people trying to study alternative medicine. China is a really interesting place where TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, I always kind of laughed at as well. And of course, I end up becoming embarrassed and learning that TCM is a real thing. that over thousands of years, these secrets of Chinese traditional Chinese medicine have been passed down really carefully, including something called Yunnan Bio, which is one of the first ones I studied more than 15 years ago. And people have tried to throw what's the ingredients of these things into mass spectrometers and see, well, what the heck is this stuff? What does it do? How does it work so well? How does a billion people know about this, but nobody in America has ever heard of Yunnan Bio? I may not be pronouncing it correctly, but it's YUNNAN-BAIYAO, I think. And this was one of the largest publicly traded companies in China many years ago in the biopharma field. So I figured, okay, we might as well look at it. And then I got into this rabbit hole, this crazy history of this like weird herb or combination of herbs that Chinese people take for really whatever ails them. And again, why don't we have that here in America? Hey, maybe that's my new business idea. We'll see. Maybe we should bring it here. But regardless, I think it's a there are things that we don't understand, and I think that's the hardest thing to accept. Because in like computer science, for example, talking about this John Carmack interview that's got me a little spellbound over the last few days that I've been watching it. There's nothing you can't understand in computer science, right? It's all right there in the debugger. I mean, you just press a button and you find out. Until neural networks. Right now in neural networks, we kind of have engineered systems that are so complex that we actually can't even like deterministically say, okay, this is why this is happening or this is why that's happening. And until now, that's been the state of computer science. It's just been like, this is how we're going to architect it. This is how we're going to build it. This is how we're going to engineer it. And this is what you get. You can't like stumble upon a data structure. You have to sort of think about it and arrive at it intellectually. And now we're sort of getting to a place where maybe medicine is going to look a little like computer science or vice versa, where there are mysteries. There are sort of some things that we're just going to sort of do and then, that helped. That seems to help, or that seems to not help. And when I read some stuff about like transformers and how they sort of can keep attention and stuff like that, a lot of it is very loosey-goosey. It's not like, exact at all. And again, I know there's some people here who have ML backgrounds. I don't, but it's really interesting to sort of see that these are fairly opaque systems compared to sort of what John Carmack was talking about, which are really, really finite, specific tools and techniques and tricks that he developed to, say, present graphics on a screen in a way that people couldn't figure out before because they were resource constrained. And those are really specific tricks. And now you look back and say, wow, that was really genius how they came up with that. A lot of the things that people are doing in ML, I think, are sort of scattershot. And, I don't know. Are spirits real, Martin? Why are things haunted? I don't think spirits are real. I don't think things get haunted. I'm like the least I hate all conspiracy theories. I hate all like things that are like people want like these ridiculous explanations for very perfectly normal phenomena. Like I'm a anti-conspiracy theorist. Is depression not real like Tate claims? Depression's definitely real. What is it exactly? We don't really know. It could be neuroinflammation. It could be some kind of adaptive behavior, probably something like that. I have heard of the field called explainable AI. We'll see. Do I believe in the afterlife? I don't. At least the, whatever religious version of it. Why is outer space made of water? I think you might be mistaken there. It's not fake, dude. I grew up in a haunted house where a kid was murdered and my toys would go off at night. You'll find out ghosts are real one day. I feel like I'm being trolled.
So would Neuralink be bioelectronics, what Elon Musk is doing with their...
I think that subfield is called BCI, brain-computer interface. And I personally don't like the BCI field. I think that so much of what you can do with BCI, you can do externally. I mean, we have sensory input-output as an API for a computer right now. Why do we need to sort of like get it more direct than it already is? The only use case there is people who are paralyzed or have other neurological damage, and for those people, it's amazing, right? It's really impressive, and I'm really happy that they're doing that. But why do we need Neuralink? It doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, if I can walk around with an iPhone to answer my questions, I don't know why I need it like so much more connected to the brain, if that makes sense. That's just my take. I read a lot about BCI in prison, and I decided it just wasn't a field worth pursuing because, other than secret communications, I mean, where do you end up needing, ever needing this technology? Maybe a spy would like it, right? Or something like that, so that like somebody could pretend they know everything, or somebody could feed them secret information while they're talking or something like that. But like, I really couldn't think of any other use case for Neuralink or BCI, the brain computer interface that made sense. So like people with ALS or locked-in syndrome or Parkinson's or other neurological diseases, they could potentially use it for sure. But I think one person says you need Neuralink so you can watch 2 YouTube videos at once while doing pull-ups. Again, this is sort of things that can be solved without Neuralink. Do you believe in MBTI? I don't. I think all those sort of like psychological types are like, somebody asked me what my love language was the other day, and I really, in fact, not just the other day, women ask me what my love language is. Every other woman I meet asks me this, and that's why I have to meet so many different women, because that's a good deal breaker. That and star sign, the zodiac sign. Those are just two surefire ways to kill my interest. I don't know. My ex-girlfriend Christy, actually, the journalist lady, she really liked the MBTI stuff, and she's smart. She's really smart. So, I'm not saying it's like ridiculous, but to me it seems a little weird to be able to segment. What is it? 2 to the 4th, right? So there's 16 possibilities, 16 personality types. Seems like we're a lot more different than 16 personality types, but it's probably not a terrible way to do it. Like real psychological or psychology papers talk about the big 5. What are they? Neuroticism is the one I know. But the big 5 is the space that psychology sort of likes to, let's see here, I'm just Googling it real quick. Big 5 personality traits. Neuroticism is the main one. Are you sensitive and nervous, or are you resilient and confident? So I have a really weird answer for that one for me, but let's go to the other 4 real quick, and then I'll talk about that one. Openness to experience. Are you inventive and curious, or are you consistent and cautious? Again, I think I kind of live in a twilight on that one. Conscientiousness. Are you efficient and organized, or extravagant and careless? Extroversion. Are you outgoing and energetic, or solitary and reserved? And agreeableness. Are you friendly and compassionate, or critical and rational? So again, in a lot of these things, I feel like yes and no, right? Context dependent. I feel like I'm inventive and curious. I don't think anybody thinks like I'm not, but I'm also pretty consistent and cautious. So it really depends. When it comes to learning things, I'm pretty inventive and curious. When it comes to trying things, like if somebody says, hey, Martin, do you want to do MDMA? I'm that's where my consistency and cautiousness kicks in. And I say, I don't know, maybe not, maybe some other time, not tonight. But if somebody says, do you want to learn a new kind of math called category theory, I'd say sure. So I don't think that's probably what Big 5 means for me, but I think I'm inventive and curious. I mean, I can write you a song or write you a poem or paint you a painting, but that's curiosity and invention. So I don't know. Conscientiousness is another tough one. Like, are you efficient or unorganized? Well, yeah, in a lot of ways. But are you also extravagant and careless? Yeah, in a lot of ways, sure. Why not? I'm both. So a lot of these you can sort of just like, you're really just playing with these suitcase words and like slicing and dicing kind of like different, vignettes of your life. Like, again, the worst one for me is neuroticism. I'm like the most resilient and confident person you'll ever meet, but I have panic disorder. So I'm sensitive and nervous too, sure. I mean, I think I tend to overcome it, but I have anxiety and panic disorder and things like that. So it's really funny for the most resilient person to also be a little neurotic, at least biophysically. So this is a really, probably more sophisticated, more time has been spent in this Big 5 than has been spent on MBTI. And to me, it's all nonsense. I mean, again, Christy notwithstanding, I take the opinions of people I care about seriously. So it's the only thing stopping me from completing on it. What do I think about Ted Kaczynski? Didn't he just pass away? Somebody sent me one of his books while I was in prison. Ted was a troubled guy, who was really an awful person in a lot of ways. I think people, for whatever reason, evangelize him or try to like have sympathy for him or humanize him. And I think the people think it's edgy or cool. But, when you're talking about a murderer, I think you have to respect the fact that there are people who are victims and their victims' families don't think this guy's edgy or cool. He's somebody who sort of lost his way, a brilliant mind, sure, but a sick mind, who's trying to warn us about the dangers of technology when, I don't know, I think like It's just sort of like there are people like that. They're interesting people, sort of like Jeffrey Dahmer captivates people because of the extremism or the insanity. Yeah, I hate to use the positive connotations of the word creative with a person like either of these people, but for lack of a better term, there is this sort of novelty that comes from these crazy killers and the way they do things that obsess people. And there's a reason we watch, like, when there's a school shooting, like, we think about these things are on TV and people think about them. They want to know the details because it sort of itches the dark recesses of our minds in a way that just fascinates us. And to me, I hate it. I don't like to see stuff like that. It bothers me. Some people like to watch this stuff or think about it, and I really am disturbed by it, which I hope is the right reaction. There's no right or wrong reaction, but people like Ted are probably a little to the left of that extreme. Some of the more extreme examples he gave, but still somebody who's really troubled, and no matter what that person's message was, you can give that message without the murder, without the craziness, right? And there's somebody, maybe a healthier example is Jaron Lanier, who I can't exactly say his name right, but he wrote a really great book called You Are Not a Gadget. And I read this book twice in prison. And basically this person's, I don't like Lanier's stuff. His name is Jaron Lanier. I liked You Are Not a Gadget. It's talked about kind of the dangers of social media and how we're, sort of regressing a little bit, maybe in interpersonal relationships and things like that. But I also feel like the guy's just sort of tends to be, I don't know, he's sort of like an old school computer guy, but he's also doesn't seem to be, how do I put this? He seems to be fighting for relevance and clinging for relevance, and seems to be like a, not somebody that, like he claims he invented VR and stuff like that. And I don't like people who are sort of like that, I guess. I'm not saying his message isn't, interesting to read and not, or I'm recommending his book, but there's a lot that I don't like about Lanier in his stuff, but he does make some interesting points, and it could be worth a read. And again, the point is, you don't have to kill people to have your message out there. And somebody says, well, Ted Kaczynski, more people have heard of Ted Kaczynski than Lanier, so his method worked. Well, maybe. But at the same time, I think most people just know Ted Kaczynski as the crazy guy, whereas the people who know Lanier at least sort of can think about his ideas intellectually and think about them intelligently and discuss them, whereas you can't really do that with Ted Kaczynski. I mean, in fact, he undermines his pretty intelligent theory by having this, little red flag of having killed a bunch of people as kind of like hurting his ability to, get forth his idea. Because every time he might make a solid point in his ideas, you sit there and say, well, am I really going to agree with this crazy guy? Whereas Lanier doesn't have that baggage. So to me, I think it's pretty obvious, that you don't want to do that.